Welcome to Doron Yoga. Welcome to Vanessa. Thanks for joining us today. We're gonna look at hands-on adjustments. What are they good for? What do we do with them? And a little bit about how to use them for those of you teachers or people that actually help other people. I'd say the first and most important reason is safety. If somebody's knee is kind of in a wrong place where they're about to injure themselves, that's the first thing you go. You don't go and try to get them deeper into the pose when their basic alignment for safety is not right. Safety first. The second thing is maybe we want to align something else just so it's looks right, feels right, so they're getting more of the energetic, full pose. And then we can start to take them a little deeper. We can actually deepen them and it feels good. Places that maybe they're not aware of, maybe they can't do on their own. Those are usually the ones that we like because they feel great, but with caution, of course. Just when I'm touching, I'm sharing my love right now, my care, my connectedness, my presence with Vanessa. And maybe Vanessa, when she's doing downward dog, is thinking about something else. I know she's enlightened and she doesn't, but just in case she was, sometimes it happens to me, right? The teacher puts their hand on me, they barely do anything, but I just come right to that present moment. So there's just that element of bringing us here now to this moment, to the practice of yoga. I'm a guy, pretty obvious, which means that I'm a little more careful with my hands-on adjustments. When I'm putting my hand on somebody, I can place the hand like this on the knee, no problem. But in many instances, I'm using more the heel of the hand and I don't use my fingers. Somehow the fingers start to feel a little more intimate when I've had those lovely adjustments. I love them, right? But they start to be a little cutesy, and maybe if you're a girl, you can get away with that. I like to use the heel of the hand. The other thing is the intention really matters. If I'm just placing the hand there and the person has no idea why, it may start to feel awkward, weird. But if they're feeling like I'm taking their shoulder back, there's no doubt, even if my hand could seem appropriate or inappropriate, there's no doubt that my intention was to help them and to get it in the better position. And so if you do hands-on adjustments, make sure you know why you're doing it. Don't just jump onto somebody and say, oh, cool, I learned hands-on adjustments, I'm gonna touch them. Really make sure you know exactly what you're looking for, what you're doing. Which means that hands-on adjustments, a lot of it is about observing, looking at the person, seeing what you see as safety first, and then from that place starting to work on safety, alignment, and deepening them a little bit deeper into the pose. Let's look at downward dog for a second, and then we'll look at maybe a twist and a seated forward fold and even a revolved triangle. So we'll get a few different variations of them just to get an idea. So, you ready? Let's try a downward dog. How about your hands facing this way? In general, in downward dog, some of the things that we see, again, sometimes the fingers are lifted here, the palms are lifted, and you just have to press down and remind them to root down. For many, the shoulders wrap in, and then I'm gonna reach in and wrap the shoulders to externally rotate them to create space. So again, it's a pretty firm touch, but even though it's firm, I'm definitely not harming. I'm just letting her know I know what I'm doing, but it's showing her exactly the direction. If the student, and a lot of times they'll collapse in the chest, maybe you need to pull them out a little bit. The classic and the feel-good adjustment after you've taken care of their shoulders, if they got their legs pretty straight, I'm gonna find kind of where the arch is in the back, and I'm from that place gonna not press her down, but rather up, right? So I'm pressing, kind of trying to help her create length in the spine. She should feel a little less pressure on the wrists. How's that feeling?
Great.
If you didn't hear, she said great. She's probably just being nice, but I'm kidding. So we're trying to really reach the hips up. I can use my arms. Some people like to use full body weight. Some people are uncomfortable with that. Make sure that whatever you do with your hands-on adjustments, you're feeling fine, right? So don't go doing it in your spine collapse. Make sure you're tall, you have a good posture when you're doing that. Thank you. Since you're there, why don't we come up and do the revolved triangles? So for many people, the problem is the hips start to roll in, the shoulder rolls in. Again, Vanessa has it kind of perfect, so less to do. Make sure they feel supported. So in this case, before I start pulling, yakking, or doing anything, I'm going to make sure that I am supporting her. So I'm going to go, since I'm going to pull her shoulder, I'm going to actually support her lower shoulder. Right? So I'm going to stand in a way that now, if she has to fall, I got her, right? She falls on me. If she falls the other way, my hand is there. I can now reach to her shoulder and to her lower back and help lengthen the lower back, bring the hips back to square, while at the same time opening the shoulder. You can't see it, but she's smiling right now. And it really should feel like a nice opening. You can adjust the hand if you want. You can use your head if you need to for hands-on adjustments. And then before I let her go, I make sure she's stabilized. So I start to move my leg away, but still here, and then she can come up. I don't just walk away. There's nothing more embarrassing than falling after the teacher gave you a hands-on adjustment. And it's not necessarily your fault. Do you want to see the other side? She's got the long spine. Her hips are square. But either way, right? I'm supporting her. And for some, this is not comfortable. Some of us will want to stand really facing her. I just like to have the side of my leg versus the front of my body touching. And then again, I'm lengthening here. You can even, again, I can bring the chin in a little bit. You can do hair adjustment if that feels good. Really think about the student. They're your most important asset right now. And then the reason I like to put my leg behind the shoulder and not the lower back is so that it doesn't create too much of an arch in the lower back. And then from here again, as I start to release, I'm just moving the leg a tiny bit, let her find balance, and then she'll come up. All right, thank you. Let's have a seat. So one more thing when we're doing standing poses is that sometimes when we're going next to the body, we're so afraid that they'll fall that we actually start to push them away and they fall the other way. So make sure you start just a tiny bit away from their body so that as you start to deepen their practice, they can come and almost like lean on you. Right? Don't let them fall the other way either, just because you're overly supported. We'll look at a twist, a seated twist, similar to what we did standing. Any seated twist you like. Give me your back, please. In twisting, the most important part is to lengthen the spine, right? And that's the part that's usually hard. There's many variations. You can use your legs to anchor them down if you find that their hip is lifting. Every hands-on adjustment is different, and you have to do it using a lot of observation first. Read their body before you go. Most things look great. I feel like I could help lengthen and then deepen. Everything else looks pretty safe. Help her lengthen by going underneath her shoulder blade, and I'm going to lift up, and then I'm going to use my other arm and help her twist deepen. The thing is that I'm also making sure I'm comfortable and tall, so I'm not collapsing. And I try to breathe together with the person I'm working with. So we'll both try to inhale and lengthen, and then we'll both deepen the twist, right? She can even go here for the deeper variation, taking the arm into her leg or taking a bind. And in this case, what I would do is I would use my arm against hers to help lengthen and then deepen the bind, creating the length and deepening the bind. Let's try from a different angle. We'll try to do the other side. So just switch legs wherever you are. And sometimes we need to help them get into the pose even here, like with the arm. In this case, there's no need. It's really more about the simple basic lengthening and opening. I'm underneath her shoulder blades lengthening, and I'm using this arm to open, trying to keep my fingers off of her. But even if they were holding the shoulder, no big deal. If we wanted to go for the deeper one, she can take the bind, or she could reach just the inner thigh. Again, I'm lengthening and deepening. I've had times where I've helped here the hip go down, whatever it may be. Great, thank you. One last one. We'll try to do the seated forward fold. So we're going to take Paschimottanasana. She's going to stay like this with the back to me. As she lengthens, then she's going to slowly start to come forward down into her pose. The secret is, again, just like downward dog, we're not looking to smash her down, but rather to create length, to create space for the spine. We want to grow deeper in our practice, but we also really want to make sure that we're doing it in a safe, healthy way. So instead of smushing down here, which would just create this arch, I'm going to start from the lower back, and I'm going to create length. I'm almost helping the hips rotate forward, pelvic rotation forward, creating length with my thumbs, and I'm finding where the arch is kind of beginning, and that's where I'm staying. So I'm staying here, creating this length. In case the student is pretty flexible, you can add more weight if you want with your body, but again, depending on your weight and their weight, right? If you're very light and they're bigger, sure, use your body. If they're very gentle, delicate, and you're a big person, then use less of your weight. She already lengthened her neck now. You can see that she's easing into the pose. You can hamper them and make sure their shoulders are relaxed and just kind of give them a hint of a massage. That's beyond hands-on adjustments, but sharing the love is part of it, right? Why not? And that's it, just kind of staying with them. That's another last good point. Many times I've seen in teacher trainings, students come and they're like, oh great, hands-on adjustments. Find the right place, give it for a second, and then they get up and leave the person. Let them feel like you've been with them, and also remember that it takes a few breaths for the person to get into the pose, to really release into your hands, and both of you melting into the pose. So work with them slowly, adjust them, and then stay with them. Let them kind of find the pose, let them feel you, and when you're releasing, make sure it's gentle, it's soft, so there's no feeling of abandonment. Thank you. Let's come back up. That's really it. There's lots of little details. We've covered quite a bit. Obviously better to learn this from a teacher than just kind of on your own, but these are some of the tools that hopefully help those of you already teaching, already doing this. Have fun and do it with love. Really think about the person. Stay present when you're doing it so that they don't feel like you just place the hands, but really you're knowing what you're doing. Back to the intention. Thanks so much, Vanessa, for being with us. And thank you all. Namaste.